Hi, Frank Mims again with the Mims Morning Meeting. Coming to you on day 22 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. Let's talk about motivation. Yep, motivation. What do you do to motivate your customer to buy? Got a trick for you. Do this. Make him uncomfortable. Make them uncomfortable. Make them uncomfortable with the solution that they have. How do you do that? You add value to your solution. Show them the slight bit of difference between your product and the product that they have. How you are superior over that, and how that your product will add value over that. That's motivation. Giving them that uncomfortable feeling that they're not quite making the grade with the product that they have. Do a comparison. Your product is in their competition's space. Good way to do it. Your competition is using this, and here are the advantages that your competition has over you. Hardball selling? Yeah, but that's the way it's done. That's the way it should be done. You're being honest, you're being upfront, and you're being extremely truthful with the customer. You're pointing out your strengths. You're pointing out his deficiencies. That's motivation. That gets one in the mood to buy. Motivation comes from here, and it works its way up. So you got to start at the gut, so it works its way up all the way to the brain. Tip number 22, give your customer some motivation and do it in the right way. I'm Frank Mims, Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. I'll be back tomorrow with tip number 23. Have a good one. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting. Back to you on day 23 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. Tip number 23, sales process. Do you have one? Does your company or organization have a sales process? Here's a better question. Are you following that process? You understand the sales process, right? It's those steps that take you to success. In many cases, in a sales process, there will be no more than 6 steps. Are you following each one of those steps? Let me tell you why I asked. The other day, I had a chance to make a call with a sales rep, and I noticed that he cut out 2 of the processes in his company's sales process. When I asked him why, he said, "Oh, I don't need to cover that with this customer." In lies the problem. When you delete part of that process or omit part of the process, you are going to miss some key and valuable information. Your success rate will go down. Proven. If they have a proven sales process for your company or organization, you need to be following it. You need to follow it to the point. Now, I'm not talking about the sales methodology. That's totally different. We'll cover that on tomorrow in the tip number 24, the methodology. I'm talking about the process and the process only. 23. Tip number 23. Follow the process. Do not alleviate steps from the sales process. You can win with the process. I'm Frank Mims. Be back to you on tomorrow with tip number 23. Tip number 24. Getting them mixed up here. Tip number 24 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. Have a good one. Hi, I'm Frank Mims. Back to you on day 24 with Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. If you go to Google right now and type in the words sales methodology, you're going to get an incorrect answer. Yes, Google is wrong. Most of the websites translate sales methodology into sales processes. I'm here to tell you they're two separate things. Sales process is what we discussed yesterday. That's the 6 or 7 step process that your company or that you've set up to open and close accounts. Take it from beginning to end. Those 6 or 7 steps that you will have in there is a sales process. The sales methodology is what you use as a sales rep to convey all of those steps. Each methodology, each salesperson will have its own methodology based on his background, based on what he believes the way it should be done. Those are the methods that he will use in order to sell it. Here's tip number 24. How's your sales methodology? Is it working for you? Is it helping you close business? Take a look at your sales methodology. Many times it needs to be tweaked. One sales methodology can change based on the economy, based on the product or the service that you're selling. The methodology will change. The process will always stay the same. Keep your process, check your methodology. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting, closing business in the fourth quarter tips. We'll see you on tomorrow with tip number 25. We're almost halfway there. Talk to you. Hi, I'm Frank Mims. On day 25 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips from the Mims Morning Meeting. Our tip of the day is making your Sundays work. What do you do on Sundays around 5, 6, maybe as late as 7 o'clock? You have a routine that you get into? Well, I do. Can I share my routine with you? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. Here we go. Usually around 5, between 5 and 6 o'clock, I get in to preparing for my week ahead. Yes, most salespeople do. Good salespeople have a routine, and they stick to that routine. They challenge the routine every day. So here's my routine. First thing I do is review my calendar for the week. Monday through Friday, I want to know everything that's going on. I'm mapping out a game plan of where I can fit in more things to do. Not looking at exactly what I have. I know what I have. I did that on Friday. I map out a game plan of where I can fit in more things. So if somebody calls, I know exactly what my schedule looks like. I don't have to hem hard and figure it out. First thing I do is map out my schedule, review my calendar. The second thing I do is I inform myself. I make sure that I am up to date on pretty much everything that goes on in my city. And I live in a pretty large city. So I have to find a source that gives me all of that information. I can get it online, but I can also get it here in my business journal. Yes, I can get the business journal online too, sure. But the business journal lets me know everything that's going on in business. Who's doing what to whom, how they're doing it, when they're doing it, and what their expectations are for doing it. That's what I do. That's the second thing. The third thing, I just chill. Yep, I chill. I prepare myself for the week ahead. I make sure I'm mentally balanced to take on the week ahead. I know what I have to do. I make sure all of those points are in place, and I make sure that I'm mentally ready to take on the challenge. So tip number 25, make your Sundays work for you. Take 2.5 hours out and do those things. Or come up with your own game plan. It works. Try it. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting. Be back to you tomorrow on day number 26 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. We're well on our way to that 90 tips in the fourth quarter. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Frank Mims. Back to you on day 26 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. Our tip of the day, clarification. How clear is your message? Is your message on point with what your customer is looking for? Have you clarified everything in your message? The clearer you make your message, the easier it is for him to make a wise decision. 3 ways to clarify your message. Number 1, talk about it. Talk about it in detail. Talk about it as it fits his environment. Not generally, be specific. Number 2, present the material. Don't give him the material, present the material. If you've got handouts and you've got brochures, present the material. Explain in detail what the brochures are talking about. How, again, it benefits to him. Presentation. Make your presentation crisp. As I've told you in the past, tell a story with your presentation. Tell a story about how it benefits him. Those 3 points will help you go a long ways in clarifying your product, your services to the customer. Tip number 26 for the day is make your presentation, clarify your product to the customer. I've been Frank Mims. We'll talk to you later. See you on tomorrow with tip number 27. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting, coming to you on day 27 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. Let's talk today about competition. How do you deal with it? What do you do to be the best? How do you compete with your competition? Got an idea for you. Become a professional. Yes, become an expert. A professional expert. Try that. Here's what I mean. You should know everything about your business, top to bottom. Then you're considered an expert. Think about it. Lawyers hire expert witnesses. Why do they do it? Because it gives them credibility. People believe experts. People hire consultants. They're experts. Why do they do it? Because they want to be on the bleeding edge, the cutting edge. They want to outdo their competition. So if you are an expert in your field, people come to you. You don't have to go to them. Yeah, you still have to do some cold calling. I'm not going to let you out of that one. That's part of the game. But become a professional expert at what you do. Read everything about your industry. Understand the trends in your industry. Understand the ups and the downs and why the ups and the downs occur. Do that. Become an expert to beat your competition. See you tomorrow with tip number 28. Thanks a lot. Hi, Frank Mims again from the Mims Morning Meeting, coming to you on day 28 of Closing Business in the Fourth Quarter Tips. I want to talk to you on something that may seem trivial, but has a great impact on how much business you close. It's follow-up. How much follow-up do you do? Are you following up with that customer? Are you following up with that person that told you to call them back? How much follow-up are you actually doing? Are you making note of those things you need to follow up on? And following up on them when they're in that timely fashion? Are you a timely person? Are you the person that gets back with the customer when he says get back with him? These are key points in getting business closed. The follow-up. The follow-up doesn't occur after the sale. The follow-up occurs during the process of the sale. There's a follow-up on everything. When you're getting your follow-up, you should also be getting buy-in on your idea. Are they buying in on your solution? So tip number 28 for today is follow-up. Are you following up on everything that you need to follow up on? Are you getting buy-in on everything, on every step of the way? I'm Frank Mims. I'll be back with you on tomorrow with tip number 29. Feels good to say that. Talk to you later. Hi, I'm Frank. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me cut this down. Just 1 second. Hi, I'm Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting. Back to you on day number 29 with closing business in the fourth quarter tips. I apologize for the music. Sorry, I didn't realize I had it on. I want to talk to you today about your customer and ask you another question. What does your customer want? What do every customer want? What do they want to know from you? Here's what they want to know. What's in it for me? If you can answer that question for the customer and cover what his needs are, then you're on your way to closing a sale, of closing business in the fourth quarter. A lot of us are participating in feature dumping. Don't work anymore. Used to, customer's too smart. He's got the internet too. Don't forget that. What's in it for him? That should be in the back of your mind every time you meet with your customer. To convey what's in it for him. How does it benefit him? Take it one step further. How does it benefit his family? Does it save him time? Does it save him energy? Does it get him home earlier at night? What does your product do to answer that question? What's in it for him? You can take that a step further. Everybody wants to know the answer to the same question. What's in it for them? Once you can answer that question, you're well on your way to covering all the bases, to covering all the needs, to covering all the wants for anyone that you'll ever meet. Answer that question for your customer. So tip number 29, answer the question. What's in it for them? Then you're a salesperson. Be back to you tomorrow with day number 20. No, we moved. Day number 30. Wow, we're in good shape. We're moving right along. Talk to you. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, the Mims Morning Meeting. Back on day 30, we are a third of the way finished with our 90 tips for closing business in the fourth quarter. Great, a third of the way. That means we've got 30 in the can, or we'll have 30 in the can as soon as this is complete. Let me talk to you. This week I had a tough time, real tough time. I'd set up the week, had my schedule planned, and nothing went to plan. Looked at Friday and said, okay, what did I do this week that was constructive? Luckily, I always plan my schedule with a contingency. I was going to do a ton of cold calling and set a lot of appointments. Well, the way it turned out, I actually did a ton of paperwork and a lot of emailing, which almost had to be the same thing. So tip number 30, do you have a contingency plan for your week? When things seem to go just haywire and you get out of what you had planned on doing, you need to have a backup plan to everything. If you can't muster the stomach to call that day or make the cold calls that you'd planned on, what can you back it up with? Can you send emails? Do you have correct email addresses? Can you then follow up on those? Always have a backup plan in whatever you do in sales. Whatever you do. That customer that cancels that appointment and you've got 2.5 hours set up for it, how do you feel that 2.5 hours? Have a backup plan to the things on your appointment list or your schedule for the week. That's tip number 30. Have a backup plan. I'll see you on tomorrow with tip number 31. Great. Feels good to say that. Of closing business in the fourth quarter. Tips. I'm Frank Mims. We'll talk at you. Frank Mims again. Back on day number 31 of closing business in the fourth quarter. Tips from the Mims morning meeting. Tip number 31. As normal, I'll start off with a question. How do you engage, or what are the rules of engagement for a C-level employee? And yes, C-level people are employees. They answer to someone, so they would be called employees. What's the rule for engagement? Do you know what they are? Well, there are about 10 of them. I'm going to give you 3 today. As normal, you know, I got to stick to my 3 rules. First rule, understand this, that you will not be given a lot of time for anything. You, at best, on your first visit, will probably get no more than 30, 40 minutes at the most. Real time. His time is valuable. He's busy. So manage your time. First rule. Understand it. Second rule. This is not a fact-finding mission. When you meet with a C-level employee, you should have your facts together. You should know the ins and outs of that company, and you're there to present or to verify or to get buy-in on. If you're not there for fact-finding. Rule number 3, understand this. You're there to give them information. Give good quality information about how you can help his company. Not selling, but give information. Establish a dialogue where he's going to talk, you're going to talk. He's going to talk, you're going to talk. That's important to establish that dialogue going forward. So those 3 rules, those 3 of the 10. If you want to see the other 7, go to my website for engaging the C-level employee. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting. I will be back to you on tomorrow with tip number 32 of closing business in the fourth quarter. Tips. Thanks a lot. Frank Mims again. Back to you on day 32 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. Let's talk about time. Yes, your time. How wisely do you use it? Let me tell you why I asked the question. I was talking to a banker in New York about a couple of days ago. As you know, they're having the rally in New York. No jobs. Here's what the banker told me. He said the reason that they have no jobs is because they don't want to put in the time. It was his feeling that young people, whatever you define as young, don't want to work the long hours that it takes in order to be, number one, successful, number two, get the job done, number three, in order to win. They don't want to do it. Here's a tip for you. Take it from me. If you don't want to work 60-hour weeks, find you another job other than sales. This is a full contact sport. Unless you're willing to play all out, all the time, and put in the time, you need to find you a 9 to 5, as they say. Put the time into the job. This is a 60-hour-a-week job. It truly is. If you're not willing to work 60 hours a week, find you another occupation. I don't know what you do in this day and age, but find another one. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting, closing business in the fourth quarter tips. I'll be back on tomorrow with tip number 33. Wow, we're getting there. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Frank Mims V, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting, a sales skill enhancement training program for the business-to-business salesperson. You know, it occurred to me the other day that some of you are only getting half of the picture. Yes, half of the picture. You're not getting the full picture from your customer as it relates to why he needs your product. Nope, you don't understand his problems, not the total problems. Tip number 32, get the full picture. Get the customer's full picture. Understand his environment so your product will then add value. It is much clearer when you get the full picture. I'm Frank Mims with tip number 32 on getting the full picture. Back to you tomorrow with tip number 33. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting. Back to you on day 34 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. I want to talk to you today on one subject, negotiation. Let me ask the question, like I always do, how are your negotiating skills? Think they're pretty good? Let me ask another question. How many tactics to negotiation do you have? How many tactics does your repertoire have in it? Tell me. I'm listening. If your number is under 50, that is truly soft, as they say in the industry. Those are soft skills. You need more in order to negotiate in this day and this age. Improve your negotiating skills. For the next 8 weeks, we're going to talk about tactics in negotiating. Tactics in negotiating in some shape, form, or fashion. It occurred to me that most of you have not polished up that part of your game. So I said 8 weeks, let me correct that. in the next 8 sessions. We will talk about negotiating, how your tactics, what your tactics, when your tactics should be throughout. We need to sharpen those negotiating skills. You don't only use negotiating to close deals. Sometimes you can open a deal through negotiation. I'll teach you how. Stay tuned. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting, closing business in the fourth quarter tips number 34. I'll be back to you tomorrow with tip number 35. Have a great one. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting, a sales skill enhancement training company for the business-to-business salesperson. Back to you on day 35 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. I told you we'd talk a little bit about negotiation. Negotiating. What you should do in finalizing the deal. The simple act of negotiating. 2 days ago, had an appointment to present my services, my products with a customer. We spent 2.5 hours together, which is rare, but it happens. 2.5 hours. The only thing we did in that 2.5 hours was she got to know me, I got to know her. When I walked away from it, I felt comfortable in that I knew the person on the other side. Many times in our negotiation, we don't actually know the people on the other side. We are simply negotiating based on what my service does against what he actually needs. The value in negotiating, or the winner in negotiating, actually knows his opponent. He understands how his opponent thinks. He understands the drivers in his opponent. He understands the need of his opponent and why he must do certain things. A month ago, I tried to buy a house. Had the money, wanted to buy it. The gentleman would not sell, would not buy the house. I offered more than the house was worth. He still would not sell. After about 2 or 3 weeks and 4 or 5 phone calls, I found out why he didn't want to sell the house. The problem was his 20-year-old daughter had always wanted to have her 21st birthday in that house. So therefore he couldn't part with it. Simple solution. A week before the 21st birthday, let's plan the party. She can have it right here in her house, invite all the people that she wants to invite. I'll even pitch in 1/3 of the money to help her have the party right here in the house. You just sell me the house. Problem solved. That's because I knew the person that I was negotiating with. And I got down to the brass tacks of why he couldn't do certain things I wanted him to do. How deep do you go in your negotiating? Do you rely on guesswork? Do you get back to the office and talk about, well, if this would have happened, if this would have happened, if I had known this, if I'd known that? Doesn't work. You got to know the facts. This has been Frank Mims with day number 35 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. Talk to you later. Hi, I'm Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting. Back to you on day 36 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. Told you we'd continue to talk about negotiating and how you should do it. Tip number 36. Here we go. Never negotiate with yourself. Now you say, that's crazy. Nobody would negotiate with yourself. But it happens every day. Let me give you an example. A customer, you've given a proposal to a customer. That customer has reviewed that proposal. Calls you in because they have some questions. They have questions about the proposal. You begin to defend the proposal. You defend what he's saying. He just simply had questions. Didn't object to anything. You start to show why things should be done or why this is in the proposal. He just had a question. Didn't say he wasn't going to buy from you. He just had a question. At that point, you began to negotiate with yourself. Because you're not facing the questions that the customer is answering. You're answering the questions in your head. So therefore, you're negotiating with yourself. Scratch that out. Listen to what the customer says. Phrase it as an objection and answer it as an objection. Tip number 36, never negotiate with yourself. Hi, I'm Frank Mims, creator of the Mims Morning Meeting. Back to you on day 37 of closing business in the fourth quarter tips. Tip number 37, no free gifts. We're still talking about negotiating. We're still talking about negotiations. No free gifts. Everything that you give up has to cost the customer something. Whatever you get in return, you must ask for something. Every time. Let me tell you why. What happens when you give away a free gift with no payback, no value coming back to you, is that the next time you negotiate, you start at a lower rate. Meaning that if your price was $100, you gave it to him for 10% off, so you sold it to him for $90. The next time you come to him to negotiate again, you actually start at the $90 rate. You start at the $90 rate. And he's looking for something better than that 10% the next time. So nothing comes for free. If you give up something, make sure you get something in return. If you give up something, make sure you get something in return. Tip number 37, no free gifts. This has been Frank Mims with the Mims Morning Meeting, closing business in the fourth quarter tips, tip number 37. See you tomorrow with tip number 38.